What they found should have been impossible. Shipyards once catalogued as collapsed husks still hung in orbit, vast frameworks of steel, skeletal against the stars. But as the watchers recorded, faint glimmers sparked within. Sections of hulls lit, shadows shifted, automated arms twitched as if waking from centuries of slumber. On abandoned moons, dry docks carved into rock grown to life. Doors that hadn't moved in generations shifted under pressure, forcing dust and stone to crumble. Out in the void, derelict fleets once assumed to be drifting scrap began aligning in formation, silent, unlit, but unnervingly precise. The silence was no longer passive, it was holding its breath. Among the alien observers, fear crept like frost. No empire had maintained ships this long. Hulls degraded, engines corroded, memory banks rotted with time. Yet the Terran ruins didn't rot, they endured. It was as if humanity had woven eternity into metal. When silence turned to roar, the turning point came at Vesper Gate. A reconnaissance flotilla from the Terran Ascendancy approached what was believed to be a lifeless orbital ring around a dead world. Their scans showed power spikes, minor, dismissible. But then, the ring lit. Engines burned in the dark. Dozens of warships, their hulls scarred but intact, powered on as if centuries had not passed. Identification codes flashed, ancient Terran military signatures, still valid against the most modern encryption checks. The flotilla panicked. They broadcast challenges, warnings, pleas. The Terran ships answered with silence, then moved, perfect synchrony, flawless formations. These were not derelicts. These were guardians preserved in stillness, waiting for the signal to rise. From Vesper Gate, the truth spread like wildfire. The human fleet was not gone. It had been sleeping. The dead that fought like living. When the first battle came, it shattered every assumption. The Terran fleet, reinforced and confident in its superiority, engaged the Terran Ghost Armada. Their ships were sleek, modern, armed with weapons designed over centuries of progress. Against rusting relics, they expected an easy victory. But when the silence broke, the galaxy learned why humans had once been feared above all. The Terran warships moved with a discipline unmatched. Engines ignited with thunderous burns, maneuvering with an aggression alien fleets had long abandoned. Old rail cannons, particle lances, and missile arrays unleashed storms that tore through Terran shields as though time itself had sharpened them. Every Terran salvo landed with surgical precision. Every formation cut through enemy lines like a blade. And though the aliens screamed that these ships were relics, the ghosts of Terra did not falter. The battle was not a struggle, it was a massacre. When it was done, the Terran fleet was nothing but wreckage drifting among stars, now lit by Terran engines once again. Whispers across the galaxy. Panic spread faster than truth. The Council of 9 Worlds convened in fear, their deliberations filled with denial. These fleets cannot exist. Humanity is extinct. This is trickery. But the signals did not stop. Across forgotten frontiers, more shipyards awoke. Silent planets shed their dust, revealing bunkers alive with automated systems. Stations lit up, networks rebuilt themselves, fleets reassembled as if called by some hidden command. The galaxy whispered in dread. If this is what humanity left behind in silence, what would they have prepared in secret? Smugglers told of battleships gliding like phantoms through dead sectors. Miners swore they saw Terran carriers ignite stars with orbital fire. Entire colonies vanished, claimed to be secured by human ghosts. The silence had broken, and with it the myth of safety. The preservation of storms. Historians began to dig deeper, searching through half-buried records of humanity's last days. What they found chilled them. Terrans had not died quietly. They had prepared. For every fleet scene, there were records of 10 more, seated in hidden caches, buried in forgotten systems, concealed beneath moons and asteroid belts. Each one waiting, preserved with a singular purpose, to rise again if ever needed. This was humanity's way. They didn't just build fleets, they buried storms. They froze thunder in time to be thawed when the galaxy had forgotten their name. And now the galaxy remembered. Aftermath, the ghosts walk among stars. In the wake of the Terran return, no empire slept easily. Trade lanes diverted away from Terran sectors. Scouts refused to approach the frontier. Governments issued proclamations denying the threat, even as they doubled their defenses. But deep in the quiet corners of every empire, dread whispered. Children grew up with a new ghost story, the kind that made them shiver even in daylight. The humans are not gone, they said. They are waiting, and when the silence breaks again, it will be our stars that burn. The galaxy had believed silence meant safety. They were wrong. Silence was a pause. Silence was the drawing of breath before the roar. And when the silence broke, Terran ghosts returned to battle, reminding the galaxy that storms never die. They only wait. The galaxy had long since written humanity into the margins of history. For 500 years, their records spoke of Earth only in footnotes, dismissed as a world that had burned too brightly and too briefly. The Concordant Archives, considered the most complete repository of stellar history, filed humanity under extinct or obsolete. The Kithaeron historians loved to remind their students that humans had always been reckless. Expansion without caution, wars without hesitation, a people who rose in brilliance but, like unstable stars, collapsed upon themselves. And when their transmission ceased, when no Terran fleets crossed the trade lanes, when Earth's coordinates yielded nothing but static, well, the galaxy had nodded in agreement. The Terrans are gone. That silence was comfortable. For centuries, it lulled empires into certainty. The fear that once accompanied human names like Yamato, Vostok, Armstrong, Thunderchild faded into academic curiosity. Bold relics of a lost species, the teachers would say. Humanity's silence is proof of their mortality. But silence is not always peace. Sometimes, silence is only a breath held before the storm. Echoes in the dark. It began in the outer reach, far beyond the mapped lanes of the Veyari Empire. Patrol frigates reported faint distortions along the Veil Nebula, the kind of sensor anomalies often blamed on dying quasars or cosmic dust storms. The readings were faint, echoes of long-forgotten transponder codes, broken whispers in ancient Terran languages. The admirals dismissed it. Ghost data, they said. The nebula reflects old transmissions. But the signals did not fade. Instead, they grew. A cadence emerged, a rhythm no natural phenomenon could mimic. The pattern was unmistakable. Encrypted fleet beacons, Terran in origin, repeating across centuries of silence. When explorers traced the distortion to its source, they found something far stranger than static. A graveyard of ships drifted in perfect stillness, hundreds of hulking silhouettes hidden within the nebula's crimson fog. At first glance, they were ruins, corroded hulls, shattered armor, monuments to a forgotten war. But as the crews drew closer, unease spread. The ships were too well positioned, arrayed not as debris but as guardians, watchful even in death. Their hulls, though scarred, bore the insignia of the Terran Stellar Navy, symbols the galaxy had not seen in a millennium. Whispers spread among the explorers. Why would a dead fleet hold formation? The Awakening. The turning point came when one ship, a Vayari scout, attempted to scan the largest vessel, a dreadnought whose keel name translated to TSV Revenant. The instant their signal touched its hull, the silence shattered. Running lights, long dark, ignited in lines of crimson and gold. Massive reactors rumbled to life, engines flaring with power no one believed possible after centuries of stillness. Across the graveyard, other vessels stirred in eerie unison. Frigates, destroyers, carriers, whole formations reigniting as if they had merely been waiting for a knock on their coffin lids. The explorers froze. Their sensors screamed with fresh data, reactor heat, shield harmonics, encrypted Terran command traffic. These were not derelicts. They were dormant sentinels, and they were waking. The dreadnought spoke first. Its ancient comm systems broadcast in a voice of steel and thunder. Terran Battlefleet Sigma, systems online, identity confirmed, awaiting orders. The galaxy learned then that time had not erased humanity's touch. Terran code still ruled Terran steel. Their ships did not decay into history. They endured, patient and silent, until the call returned. Shadows of war. Word spread faster than light drives. Admirals across empires demanded reports. Scholars scoured archives, rereading the wars of the Terrans with newfound dread. The question hung in every council chamber: if their fleets survived, what of their soldiers? What of Earth itself? The Vayari sent a probing fleet to establish control, believing that centuries of technological progress would give them the upper hand. Their cruisers approached cautiously, weapons armed, confident that their modern arsenal would dismantle relics of the past. But the Terran ghosts moved first. The Revenant issued